Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service in Hernando County, Florida, and I am all by myself today. My regular guest host is on vacation this week. Lily is not going to be with us, so you guys just get me today. I figured today would be a fairly short session. I'm sure a lot of people are taking off early for the big 4th of July weekend. Let me go ahead and take a moment and wish everybody a very happy and healthy and safe 4th of July weekend. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be going out and traveling and doing things now that we can once again. So I want to remind everybody to stay safe out there and drive safely and watch out for the heat and dehydration because it has been hot recently. And especially if you're out there working in your yard, working in the garden this weekend, you want to be very careful not to get dehydrated. It'll kind of sneak up on you. And don't think that just because it's raining every day, it's not getting hot. Also, you need to know the warning signs of heat stress and heat stroke, and drink plenty of water and stay hydrated, and that way you're going to stay safe. Good morning, buddy. How are you doing from up there in the Panhandle? And Austin is here also. Good morning, Austin. How are you doing? If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll go ahead and cover them. Just wanted to mention a couple things for any of those people listening who are in the state of Florida. We do apparently have a tropical storm out there in the Atlantic or the Gulf. I'm not exactly sure, where it is at the moment, but it's just turned into a tropical storm. And in a few days, it may get close to here. Now, for anybody who hasn't lived in Florida for very long, if one of these storms gets anywhere near, you don't have to worry. You don't have to go into a panic. It may get a little breezy, but we may get a lot of rain. I've seen tropical depressions and tropical storms and little tropical systems go by, and you'll get 12 inches of rain in 12 hours. So hopefully nobody lives in a flood zone or an area where they're going to get flooded out really badly if we do get that kind of rain. But very important that you turn off your irrigation, because even without tropical systems here in Central Florida, we've been getting plenty of regular rain. And you don't have to add more irrigation on top of that to keep your lawn healthy. Your lawn's going to do just fine with a couple inches of rain per week we've been getting. Another inch on top of it is probably not going to be really good for it, and you're wasting a lot of water also. Buddy says he's doing wet today. Yeah, we got a lot of rain yesterday. It's still really cloudy out there, and I'm sure there's more coming in just a few hours. And Austin, if you got a question about your pepper, just go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll do our best to help you figure that out. Let me pull up. Last week, we have one of our Master Gardener volunteers, Cindy Hamblin, on with us. And Cindy is one of our volunteers that works in our Master Gardener nursery here in Hernando County. And there were a couple of questions that she looked into and emailed me the other day about. So I know Lee White asked about a yellow tuberosa milkweed, which does exist, but technically it is not a native. It's a cultivar or a nativar, which is a term that I've never heard before. I guess people have made that up, and if you have native plants and you start crossbreeding them and you come up with another cultivar, if it comes from a native plant, maybe they call it a nativar. I'm not really sure. They're selling it as Asclepias tuberosa under the brand name or cultivar name Hello Yellow. So obviously it gets a yellow flower, also called butterfly weed. So it's technically not a true native, but it's not invasive. It's not going to be a problem in the garden. And apparently they are marketing it and selling it, and you are able to find it now. A lot of times, if you look at your local garden center or nursery, they're going to have a kind of limited supply or selection of plants. If you're looking for something really specific, look online. There's a huge number of native plant nurseries and other nurseries around the country where if you're looking for something really specific and really unusual, chances are they have it. And also Nancy asked about her coral honeysuckle, and Cindy looked it up and found out they like slightly acidic soil, but they're going to grow in most soil conditions. And like I mentioned, the amount of sunlight that that plant gets is the key factor in its blooming. So the more sun it gets, the better it's going to flower. The shadier the spot is, the less it's going to flower. Even though it may grow well, it's just not going to flower as much. So I wanted to share those from Cindy following up about that. And Lee is here this morning, so I guess he heard about his nativar. Like I said, a term that I've never heard before. I'm going to have to look into that. But okay, Corey has a question. About 2 weeks ago, my tomatoes flipped a switch and turned to trash. It was neat how quick they turned. Yes, this is July 1st. And as a general rule, by June 15th, it's pretty much the end of tomato season, squash, and cucumber season. Squash and cucumbers usually decline even earlier than that, usually by beginning of June, because of the heat, the humidity, the frequent afternoon rains. All of a sudden, the fungal diseases just go wild. They go like crazy, and they turn the leaves brown and black. They fall off. They turn to mush. So Corey, that's probably what happened to your tomatoes. My tomatoes did the exact same thing a few weeks ago. I'm still in the process of pulling them out right now. I'm going to pull them out. I haven't really decided whether I'm just going to make a lot of compost over the summer and work it in, or actually plant a proper cover crop. I'll let you all know when I make a decision and order something, and I'll let you know how well it works out. But spring garden season here in Central Florida only goes until middle of June. Now, I still have some pepper plants out there. I have jalapenos and banana peppers and eggplants. The eggplants are heading downhill, but the peppers still look really good. So as long as they look good, I'm going to keep them in the ground growing. They probably won't survive the summer. They might. Sometimes they do, but you can't really count on it. Depends to a certain extent on exactly what kind of weather we get this summer. If we get a very, very wet summer, that decreases the chances of anything surviving until fall. So I'm already planning on starting more tomatoes and more peppers soon, within the next few weeks. So I'll have transplants in August or beginning of September to put in the ground, and that way I can have another fall crop. So Austin has a pepper question here. He says he has a pepper plant. It's small. I have a pepper started. How is it going to stay balanced? Oh, if you're talking, you have a pepper plant and it has a pepper on it and it's starting to lean, which they do, stake it up. Pepper plants really benefit from staking them up with a small stake. If you grow tomatoes, you're going to need to stake them up to keep the fruit off the ground also. But tomatoes generally need a larger stake to hold them up. The reason why you want to stake tomatoes and peppers and eggplants up is because when they get fruit on them, they'll lean, they'll fall over. And if that baby pepper or tomato or eggplant is laying on the ground, really bad things are going to happen to it. Snails and slugs are going to find it. Insects are going to find it. Bacteria is going to find it. Fungi in the soil are going to find it. And it's probably going to rot on the side that's laying on the dirt. So you want to try to keep those plants staked up and standing up tall and keeping the fruit up above the ground. And that way it's not going to rot on you. So looks like Austin has the right idea. Yep, you should stake it. You should stake it up, really, not really stake it down. So stake it up and keep it standing up, and that way you don't have problems with the fruit laying on the ground and rotting on one side. Good morning, Cindy. How are you? If you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in the chat, because like I said at the very beginning, I'm here all by myself today. My regular co-host, Lily Browning, is off on vacation. She's taken a few days before and after the holiday weekend off. I'm taking a week off at the end of July, so I'll have her filling in for me then. So see, you guys get all this variety during the summer, all these different people running this. But still, whatever questions you have, if we don't know the answers off the top of our heads, we'll look into it and find out for you. And we have another question here. I still have a potted pepper plant that I grew from seed last year. It produces red peppers. That's great. And pepper plants can be perennials, which means they grow for years and years. It's just really difficult here in Central Florida to keep them alive and growing for that long. Because when you get to the heat of summer for a little while, during June, July, and August, it gets really hot and wet and steamy, and sometimes your peppers will die because of that. At the other end of the calendar, in the middle of winter, if your pepper plants are out in the garden and you get a really bad frost or freeze, they can freeze and die all the way. Sometimes they just get damaged and grow back. Other times they completely die. So if you have a potted pepper plant and during the winter, you can bring it inside to keep it warm. During the summer, you can put it in the shade. You could put it in a partly sunny area, someplace where it's going to get a little bit of protection from the sun and the heat. You can actually keep them going for a number of years. I know people who have hot pepper plants that they've had for several years, and they don't look really great for a month or two in the heat of summer, and they probably don't look that great when we're getting a lot of really, really cold weather if they're exposed to the cold also. But the rest of the year, they'll come back and they'll grow and they'll flower, and you'll keep getting peppers over and over again. It's just really difficult, and there's no guarantee that you're not going to lose that pepper and have to start over again from seed. What I usually do is I'll go ahead and start them for the spring and also try to grow them again in the fall and just start from seed with fresh plants each time. So, follow-up question there, how long will my pepper plant live? If it's in a pot, and if you're really diligent and you don't forget about it on a really cold, frosty night, or leave it in the sun in the middle of July and August, it could live for a number of years. Like I said, they technically grow as perennials, but they have to be in the right environment and not get too much heat or too much cold, basically. So here we have a picture from Austin of his peppers. So let me go ahead and pull that up here. And there we go. There's Austin's pepper plant and pepper. That's great. It looks like you're growing some variety of green pepper. That looks great, and it's not touching the ground right now, so you're okay for the moment. The problem is small plants, when they start to get large fruits on them, tend to lean one direction or the other. So you may want to stake that up or do something to hold the plant upright. Otherwise, when that pepper gets larger, it may fall over. And you don't want that, because then when the pepper's laying on the ground, like I said earlier, it gets snails and slugs and all kinds of little bugs living under it, and they usually get a rotten spot on the side that's laying on the ground. So Lee is asking, my corn plants are putting out tassels now. How long before it produces the corn cobs? The corn cobs should be coming along pretty soon. Lee, as I remember, you live in South Florida, I think down in Broward County, maybe? And it's kind of hot down there for growing corn this time of year. Down in South Florida, they usually grow corn in the very, very early spring. I know down in Belle Glade is where they get the first corn harvest in the very early spring. And then you could try growing corn again in the fall. Little difficult because you have maximum insects and caterpillars and everything else out there that time of year. But that's great. If your corn plants are looking good and putting out tassels, it should be just within the next week or two where if you look down the stalk, you're going to see the little tiny corn cobs start to emerge, and then the pollen falls from the tassels down to the top of the corn cobs, and hopefully you'll get a good crop of corn. Like I said, it is a little hot this time of year, but okay. Yeah, Lee lives down in Broward County. So, like I said, it's a little hot down there for corn this time of year, but don't be afraid to experiment. Sometimes, experiments work out really, really well, and you'll learn a lot from it. Other times, things don't work out well, but you still learn a lot from it. So, don't be afraid to experiment. So, if anybody else has any other questions, go ahead. Oh, I see one from Diana here. So Diana asks, I've been digging out elephant ear plant in my front bed. Every time I dig them out, I get 10 or more babies that pop up. I thought I was getting the bulbs with the leaves. Is there any better way to control them? For something fairly large in a flower bed, digging them up is going to be the best way. And what ends up happening is you chase bulbs for a while, because you think that you have all of them, and then another one pops up and another one. You're just going to have to be diligent and keep chasing them. The only other thing you could do is use an herbicide, probably in the fall when the leaves are all transporting carbohydrates and proteins down to the roots. It will take the herbicide down with it. But if it's in a bed and you have other keeper valuable plants around it, it's very difficult to spray certain plants with an herbicide without hitting all the other plants that are right next to it. So a lot of times you'll end up doing a lot more damage than good. So the old-fashioned mechanical way, trust me, if you're diligent, eventually you'll win. People have the same problems with invasive plants that grow from bulbs, things like air potato and other things that are growing from bulbs that you try to remove. Sometimes plants will start from little roots that you leave in the ground. So any little bit of that plant that gets left behind is going to grow for a while underground, and all of a sudden, boom, one day you're going to end up with a brand new one after you figure that you got rid of all of them. So it happens to all of us. All I can say is just be diligent and be careful that you don't damage your other plants, and just keep chasing them around. Eventually, you will win. And I understand that you really want them gone. They can be kind of a tough one to get rid of. And I think Corey kind of says the same thing here. Just keep digging for the tubers. They'll keep spending their energy popping up new leaves, and eventually you'll win. That's what I tell people with air potato vines, because they grow from tubers underground also. And there's a few other things. There's the what is it? The vine that comes up in flower beds that has the nasty thorns on it, greenbrier. That's really tough because they grow huge tubers. I've seen them the size of a basketball before. And if you leave the smallest part of that root behind, it'll grow for a while and then eventually pop back up in your flower bed after you thought that you got rid of all of them. So yeah, Diana, I wish I had a better answer for you, but your choices are either continue digging or try using an herbicide. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that, especially if it's in a flower bed and intermingled with other things that you don't want to damage. And yeah, Corey, it's Smilax or greenbrier. And that's I looked that up once before. Technically there's about 12 different species of Smilax here in Florida. Some of them are native and some of them are invasive. The invasive ones are really not a huge problem. It's not like they spread far and wide and clog waterways or cover forests or anything like that. But they are annoying, and they do have thorns, and they're little thorns, and you never notice them until you go to pull the vine up and you get a thorn in your hand. So they're kind of annoying in that way. And they pop up a vine. They always seem to pop up in hedges. So for some reason, they grow just great underneath hedge bushes and sneak up through your hedge and then pop up. And then you have to track them all the way back down to the ground. Something that works well is if you have them mixed in with hedges, just be diligent and track the sprout down to the ground and just keep cutting it off. It'll send out another shoot, just cut it off and keep going back and forth. If you're diligent, you'll eventually win out. So I think Austin has another picture of his pepper here. Oh, wow. Let me go ahead and share that also. Okay, here's a picture of Austin's pepper, and I could tell from the label it's a purple beauty. That's great, and I know that Austin lives up north, so certain peppers grow really well up north, and they don't grow quite as well here in Central Florida. Some of the colored ones, the purple ones, the orange and yellow ones, that get the large bell peppers, the sweet ones, don't do quite as well here in Central Florida, in my experience. If you're trying to grow green peppers here in Central Florida and you get California Wonder, they don't do well because this is Florida. It's not California, totally different weather. Some of those peppers really don't like the heat and humidity once it starts up here in Central Florida. And you know, we have a lot of springs and summers where we get kind of an early summer. So as early as March, it may just go straight from winter right into summer, it seems like, and it gets very hot. So some of them don't do quite as well here in Central Florida. But ones that do really well here, pretty much any kind of hot pepper is going to do great in Central Florida. And I like growing them in the spring and in the fall. And something that you can do is you can grow the hot peppers, and there's a lot of different varieties of hot peppers. If you get more peppers than what you can eat, either in salsa or just snacking on, I know some people just love hot peppers, try drying them. I grew, Thai hot peppers last year, and they're very, very small peppers, and they turn red. And I had about a half a dozen plants, and they did great. I just got tons and tons of these little red hot peppers. I dried them and ground them up, turned it into a powder, and now I have powdered Thai red pepper, and it's great. So it's a really, really good way to preserve and save hot peppers. And that way, even after your harvest is long gone, you still have that hot pepper to throw in chilies, stews. I mix it in with blackening seasoning for fish and chicken. You could use it for a lot of different things. And the Thai hot peppers are hot, but they're not super hot. Now, I don't try growing things like habaneros or the ghost peppers, the super, super hot ones. I know a lot of people do. And generally, they're going to do really well here in Central Florida. They generally don't get too many insect pests, not a whole lot of diseases, sometimes, but not really bad. So if anybody watching grows hot peppers, go ahead and put it in the comments about what kind of hot peppers you grow and where you grow them at and just how hot they are, because I've honestly never tried any of the ghost peppers or the super hot ones that they've developed and have seeds for now. I'm kind of afraid of trying something quite that hot. So if you guys have any other questions, feel free to put them in. I wanted to mention, and I think I still have it here. Let me go ahead and share this. A very nice article that came out the other day from our local paper, the Hernando Sun, and they came by our office a couple weeks ago and took pictures of our native plant garden that we have out in front of our office. So one of our Master Gardener volunteers, Alice Smith, helped to spearhead this, and she's working with some other Master Gardeners, and they redid all of our flower beds and landscaping with Florida native plants. And it looks great. Let me scroll down here, some of the different pictures that they put in the paper. Hopefully you can see this okay. Yeah. We have tick seed also known as Coreopsis. This is the official Florida state wildflower. And there's some Dune Sunflower and Gaillardia right out in a flower bed out in front of our office, all in full bloom. Everything is doing great. They are absolutely loving all this rain and sunshine and scorching hot temperatures we've been getting. You can see all the Gaillardia flowers there. And the spent flowers, the ones that look like little round puffballs, those are all spent flowers. And that's a little clump of seeds. And all those seeds are going to fall to the ground. And next year, we're going to have 10 times as many plants out there as what we have right now. We have American Beautyberry, Black-Eyed Susan, the Florida variety that does the best here in Florida, Florida violets, and here's a list that they put together of all the different native plants that they put out there. So very, very nice article. Thank you very much, everybody from the Her Native Sun, for helping to promote that and spread that. We're trying to show people that you can plant native plants in your garden and they don't all look like weeds. Many of them are very, very attractive. They flower. A couple of really, really nice extras when you grow native plants. As a general rule, they don't need extra irrigation. Right after you plant them, you have to water them for a bit till they get rooted in. And when it's really, really dry, like we're going through a dry spell, you probably want to go out there with a garden hose and water them a little bit. But the rest of the year, they don't need any irrigation. They get by just fine on natural rainfalls. Most of them don't have any insect pest or disease problems, or if they do, it's really minor. You may, I know for anybody who grows muley grass, which is a native ornamental grass here in Florida, there is a mealybug that feeds on them, but they usually never get to the point where they're bad enough that you have to spray for them. And if they do, maybe spray once or twice with insecticidal soap and you're good, you're fine. You got the mealybugs back under control. So native plants are great for the home landscape. I like them because they're extremely low maintenance. And for me, low maintenance is very, very important. Lee, down there in Broward County, is growing Scotch bonnet and hot cherry peppers. Yeah, the Scotch bonnet is also, that's another name for habanero peppers, and some of them can be very, very hot. You want to use them sparingly, unless you're one of those people that just really, really loves hot peppers. I know a few people that really do, and they're the ones that get in contests and, they'll grab a whole hot pepper and, put it in their mouth and their eyes kind of pop out and they start crying, but they enjoy it. And hot peppers and all peppers are very good and healthy for you. You just want to be very, very careful. If it's a hot pepper, try a very, very tiny bit first just to make sure before you start adding more to your dinner plate. But yeah, hot peppers do very well across pretty much all of Florida. If anybody else has any other questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in. I didn't really have a whole lot else to talk about today other than wishing everybody a very happy, healthy, and safe 4th of July weekend. Everybody go out there and see some fireworks and cook on the grill and visit with your family and friends and have a great time. Just be very, very careful traveling and watch out for that heat out there. It's been very hot here in Central Florida. And for what I see, other parts of the country are going through heat waves of their own. Out west, and I'm not sure if we have anybody from out west that ever tunes in to watch or listen, but they have a heat wave going on out there. Yeah, and Lee says he's one of those people who really do like hot peppers. Last year he grew the Carolina Reaper, and they were wickedly hot. Carolina Reaper is one of those newer varieties that somebody developed, and you can actually buy seeds online, and it's just ridiculously hot. Every year they have a contest, and they figure out which is the hottest pepper, and every year it's a new winner because people just turn it into a hobby. And I guess that's their life's work, is coming up with hotter and hotter and hotter peppers. So experiment with them, but like I said, be careful. Corey sent some pictures here also. And he has Calusa grapes and a caterpillar on his peppers. So let's go ahead and screen share them. And there we go. There we have some grapes just starting off on the vine. That's great. And there they are. They're still really small, but before you know it, they'll be ready to pick. Grapes here in Florida generally are ripe, and you pick them later on in the summer, August or so, all depending on exactly what variety you're growing. And there is a caterpillar. That is either a tomato or tobacco hornworm caterpillar. And they are, for anybody who grows tomatoes, you've probably seen them before. Those are the caterpillars that get really huge. They'll get as long and as big around as your pinky finger, and they will just strip leaves off your tomato plants very, very quickly. And they feed on peppers also. And they can feed on eggplants, because tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants are all in the same plant family. Now, the way that you can tell the difference between a tomato hornworm caterpillar or tobacco hornworm is from the color of that little spike on their rear end there. If you look at the back end of the caterpillar, the little spike, it's a different color. I can't remember off the top of my head which is which, but it doesn't really matter. They're very, very closely related species, and they will eat the heck out of your tomatoes and peppers sometimes. You don't see them as often on peppers, though. But for anybody who grows tomatoes, very, very common sight. You're gonna have a problem with them. You're gonna see them. Yeah, Corey says it was huge, as big as his thumb. I have seen them, and I found one feeding on a weed before, and it was as big around as my thumb, and it must have been, I don't know, probably 5 inches long. It was a huge caterpillar. So they get very large, and very important that you check your plants very frequently, because otherwise you're going to get them on your plants and they're going to eat a lot of leaves, because big caterpillars can eat a lot. Yeah, Austin, way up there, way up north, you probably get them also. I'm not positive if you get them as far up north as you are, but you probably do. So that's something that you want to be on the watch for with your pepper plant also, so you don't start to have problems with massive tomato and tobacco hornworm caterpillars. And Corey agrees, yeah, that guy ate a lot. It's funny, you can go out one day and check your tomatoes, they all look fine. You come home the next day after work, you walk out there, and one entire branch on your tomato plant is just stripped. All you have is the stem, and all the leaves are gone, because these caterpillars just seem to pop up out of nowhere, and boom, they'll eat all day long, and before you catch them, they do a lot of damage. But you want to check every day, because if you let it go for a couple days, you may have completely stripped tomato plants, and that's really, really tough on the plant. So let me go ahead, and if anybody ever has any other further questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. Email is by far the best way to send me a question. Send me pictures, send me an explanation as much as you know about what's going on, what kind of plant it is, what the situation is, possibly what you've done to it recently as far as fertilizing, spraying for insects, spraying with weed killers near the plant. All these things kind of go into helping us figure out what your problem is. And of course, if I need more information or close-up pictures or far-away pictures, I can email back and forth with you. Definitely the best way to get in touch with me. If you ever have any Florida-friendly landscape questions here in Hernando County, feel free to shoot Lily an email, because even though she's off for a few days, she'll be back. I think she's coming back next week, so she should be here with us next Thursday. Although I think we got by okay without her this week. Hopefully she's viewing today and is proud of all of us for keeping it together in her absence. And if you have never visited our Facebook page, please do so. We have a lot of really good information on there. We have updates on invasive insects and plants and lizards. We have information about all of our upcoming classes. And with that in mind, if you're ever wondering what kind of classes we have coming up, if you just go to www.hernandoextension.com, that is a live feed from our Facebook page. So even if you don't have Facebook, that's okay. Anybody can go to your search engine, go into the search bar, and go to hernandoextension.com and just scroll through the list of all of our upcoming classes. And that way you know everything that's coming up. So Austin says he got a nice rain the last few weeks, and now it's going back to the 90s. What's the best water schedule for hot weather? Austin, it looks like you're growing your pepper in a pot. So if it's warm and it's pretty sunny, you're going to need to water it, I would guess, once a day, because container plants dry out very quickly. Obviously check, and if it's still really wet, or if you have your pot with the pepper outside and it gets rained on, it may not need to be watered. You don't want to overwater, but you do need to check every single day that it's getting enough water. Because if it's in a pot outside, it's a sunny day, it's warm, it could completely dry out in one day. So you need to keep a real close eye on that. But other than that, just give it regular water. Sunny weather, even weather up into the 90s, is not terrible for peppers. Peppers deal with it quite well. So with that, let me check one more time if anybody has a quick last-minute question. Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend, a great day. Enjoy the rain, depending on where you live. Here in Central Florida, in Hernando County, it looks like it's supposed to rain again today. So, Lee, thank you. You have a great 4th of July also, and keep growing those hot peppers. Maybe one day you're going to have to mail me a few so that I could check them out. Like I said, I've never tried the really hot ones. Still a little nervous about that one. And Deb, we will see you next week. Make sure you tune back in again next Thursday. And like I said, my regular co-host Lily should be here with me again next week, and we'll find some things to talk about. If you ever have a plant question, feel free to email me pictures and what's going on right before the class, and that way I have it to go ahead and pull up and screen share and show to everybody, and we'll figure out what's going on together, I guess. We'll do kind of teamwork, problem solution here, I think. So once again, thanks everybody. You guys all have a great holiday weekend.